Alrighty then. iPhone 6X Plus screen repair. From what it looks like, warranty. Device basically has a problem where it'll decide to flicker on and off. Super fun stuff. As per usual, start by removing pentaloop screws from the bottom of the device. With the super noisy outside, hopefully it doesn't bleed through the microphone. That being said, I don't think I have it anywhere near that sensitive, so that's a huge help. Pentaloop screw is removed. Flip the device upside down. Take the opening tool. Place it between the screen and the chassis of the device. This is one that's previously been worked on, so weakened to no adhesive, making this a lot easier. Get it around to the edge and twist it like a key. Move it around to the other side. Ooh, I'm separating off the screen. Super fun. Okay. Start removing the screws. Move the cover over the battery. Set that to the side. So just zoom in a little bit here on the battery connector. Taking a spudger, wiggle it underneath this connector and twist up, disconnecting it from the rest of the assembly to force the device off and make sure that we don't blow out any circuits in the back. Be upset at the fact that the lighting here is atrocious. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws I need to undo. Keep them all organized inside my wonderful little pillbox. Oh. Wondering why that was so unusual. I grabbed the wrong screw. I got myself one viewer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now real quick, I'm actually going to reconnect everything and try it real quick, just to make sure that this wasn't a case of it being a just bad connection from when the screen was originally done. It's always a good idea to test any sort of parts you're using, even the ones that are on the prior device, to make sure it's not simply a matter of something being set weird. If you think you've got something that's a defective part, always make sure through some sort of testing that it is in fact the part that's the problem. Device powers on, but testing comes next. Moving it off screen for customer privacy. So let's see here. Customer is describing it as flickering when a app was pressed down on, rather than just, basically tapping the screen and then it reacted as if it were having a situation wherein it was saying, oh, you're holding it down and you want to delete something. Customer actually has a bit of a sensitive background on here, so cannot actually show it on camera. Doing a sensitivity test, moving an app back and forth, back and forth, back and forth across the screen. Using our own store phone here for an example. No, not that one. I'll just use my own phone. This shockingly beat up child of mine. What a screen test basically is grabbing an application, moving it back and forth, okay, not like that. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like that, going across everywhere you can on the screen to make sure there's no dead zones. If there's a dead zone, then there's a problem. And I actually just looked down and saw something that slightly worried me. The fact that it looked like something was doing the little deletion dance. So it seems to be working fine for now. However, that being said, I'm going to set it to the side and keep an eye on it, just on the offhand chance, because I do not want to have this walk out with a problem. Oh, the joys of repair. Fun moments where you get to sit here and be like, oh man, such an awesome, high octane, difficult repair. Just trying to see if I can get this to trigger at all. Oh, customer. Alright, and I'm back. Okay. The home button, at the very least, is slightly loose, so I am going to at least very basically check that to make sure it's not a situation where that can't be handled. So at least something's getting done. Actually, before I do that, power off the device using the power of slide the power off button, and then disconnect the battery, because redundancy is best. That, and these phones tend to not like to play nice and try and explode. Especially their backlights. Good lord, their backlights. Ah, the joy of having an ever so slight cough. Okay. Pretty sure my coworkers are gonna hate me at some point. When they realize I'm going to start and end streams whenever it works best for me. They're just forced to sit there, receiving nothing but spam messages saying that the fix-hut has gone live, and they must suffer. Yes, yes, enjoy my periodic going live and ending streams. Getting absolutely nowhere with unusual devices that are suffering from any myriad of problems. I think my favorite thing though is that sometimes repairs literally are just a matter of have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in again? Except for you don't get to be mad at the customer, because for once, they actually need specialized tools to get where they need to unplug the thing. Actually, before I reassemble this fine piece of machinery, I'm going to clean out all the gunk and adhesive that is around the edge of here, as should have been done when the device was originally opened. Because that gives it a much more flush seating when the device is reassembled. Taking just something like a flathead screwdriver and going right on the very, 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 very edge of the chassis where the adhesive lives. That can be seen particularly well here. Sort of see it down here, the black gunk on the edge. It's probably the best way to get it off. Having a better seating is key. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to keep it on because as soon as it's broken, in order to originally get into the device, all the water resistance is pretty much gone anyways. All it does is make the screen a bit bumpier and a little bit harder to get into in the future for if there needs to be any maintenance done. Not enough for it to really matter, but enough for it to be an ever so slight annoyance. Ugh. The most skilled and difficult part of any repair. Slowly peeling off all the adhesive. Almost as difficult as undoing a single screw. It's a lot more time consuming. Yeah, there's also a bit of nasty chassis damage done to this device, but not enough to deform it. Just enough to make me feel sorry for this device and what it has had to go through. Poor, poor device. No one should ever treat you like that. Okay. Let me reconnect you one last time. Battery included. Powers up A-OK. Should all be golden. Long screw goes in the long screw hole. You do not want the long screw to go into a short screw hole, otherwise you will destroy the device. Second longest screw goes into the second longest screw hole over here on the side. Probably should have zoomed in for that, but a little bit hard to do something I need a third hand for. Because I wish I had an easy zoom button on here, but nope, I have to go to a totally separate window and scroll in. Long screw in the longer hole that is higher up. Shorter screw in the lower down hole. Remember kids, if there's ever a question how long your screws should be, see what they would be butting up against and how deep down it is. You're joking. Gosh darn it. Now you don't want to power on. Oh, I'm gonna work totally fine. Until now. Ho 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 ho. Gosh, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna act totally normal until you do this thing. Okay. Disconnect the battery and reconnect. Suddenly, you do not want to turn on. Is this something weird with, like, the covering plate? Because that would be ever so slightly unusual. see here. Okay. Disconnect battery first. Disconnect the screen connectors. Reconnect the screen connectors. Reconnect the battery. Close that off and power on. Power on. That's weird. Okay. So maybe out of power? Still had plenty of power when I was testing it though. Okay, I heard it power on. So new screen time. God, yeah, do a bunch of testing and then suddenly it's like, hey, oh yeah, you thought everything was gonna be totally fine? Nah, now I'm gonna suddenly not work. Because why would it do anything other than be a nuisance? Of course. Of course. Sometimes I feel like device repair is just spiteful. Oh, you're testing the part? Okay, everything, yeah, seems to work totally fine. To start reassembly, and suddenly you're not gonna work. You'll have wasted almost half an hour of your life. Okay, yep. Fully powered's on. Screen drag test. Screen drag test is A-OK. Power off the device again, and disassemble the old screen to transfer it over. Starting with the upper assembly. Moving the screws that are holding this fun guy in place. So one that lives here, one that lives right there, one that lives... See if I can get the shading right, yeah, right there. Alright, I removed one, and put it into our pillbox. Remove the other. And the final one. Set that all aside here. Remove the cover, put it over here. Now, I'm going to remove the speaker after peeling that away gently. Now, I'm actually going to set this off to the side because this is magnetic and I don't want it attaching to a bunch of screws. If I have it attached to a bunch of screws, that just makes my life harder. And now for the covers for the home button. One screw right here, one screw right here. Nice and simple. Yeah. Assuming you don't drop the screen, or screwdriver. Cool. Cover for the home button. And the little tiny connector here. You want to be careful when you're sort of twisting this apart and separating it so that you don't damage either one of these bits. Because while you can replace the home button, you cannot get it to have Touch ID on a new device. Lift up the home button slightly. Take a spudger, separate it from the screen. Nice and simple like. That to the side. This one, because it was previously paired, is nowhere near as stuck as it normally would be. That makes my life a lot easier. Take a spudger from this side, go underneath, and twist it up. God, how I wish I had a higher quality camera. That's my one wish list. Just a really good camera for recording stuff. Because Santa is totally real. And then undo this screw at the top for the protective plate, set it to the side, and go down. Do all the little screws, holding this plate here on both sides. Once that's done, I can transfer everything over to the new screen, and everything will work totally fine with absolutely no problems whatsoever. Because I totally have absolutely no delusions. Longest stream ever caused by a phone trolling me. Oh, that would be about right. I'm more surprised by the fact I haven't had any more people come in. One guy with a problem that I couldn't really help with because the phone was locked and didn't know the passcode. So, no, I'm not touching that. Because that's totally not shifty as all heck. Set that to the side. Disconnect the battery on this guy because it's already powered down. Disconnect the screen. New screen. Removing the protective covering. Setting it to the side, just in case I need to use it in a bit, for if this part happens to be defective at all. Ideally it won't be, but better to be safe than sorry. Get everything all nice and lined up here. Setting the little screw at the top off to the side. For reassembling this guy, the easiest way to do this is find one of the midpoint screws. There's always going to be 1, 2, 3 on this side, and 1, 2, 3 on this side. This one, you want to find a good midpoint. Take a screw, back it out until you feel a little click, and then screw it in. Do not screw this one in all the way, just most of the way, so that it's holding everything together. Trying to make sure all the holes are nice and lined up on the other side. And shift it around a little bit. Make sure the hole is nice and lined up. Let's go with this one. Then screw it in all the way after backing it out. Repeat this 5 more times for all the holes. Try and keep a bit of a triangle pattern going, because in doing so, that means that it is going to be as even as possible. Screw this guy back in once you got a few more secured. Or rather, finish screwing it all the way in. Back it out till you feel the click, then put it in. Back it out till you feel the click, and then screw it the rest of the way in. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Welcome to cell phone repair. I'm doing a bunch of screws and being messed with by phones. Take that one last little screw, screw it in at the top. Okay, that's that bit done. Top of our new screen has a little blue protective cover. Take some tweezers and peel that off. Careful not to remove the rest of the speaker frame that's up here, because this is actually a movable bit that is not properly adhered down. lining this guy up with the little tiny hole. There's a little tiny peg down here that does not show up on this camera, but does in fact exist. Lining that tiny little hole up top there with that peg. Should adhere down there. These guys should go into their respective holes up top here. Shift them around a little bit with your finger to make sure they try and sit down there as best they can. They tend not to want to. Put the speaker in here. Fold the upper camera over. Adhere it down. There are two more little pegs on top of the speaker with two holes to line up top here. Get those all lined up. Grabbing the cover that goes on top of this, layer it on top. There are three screws up top here. One that goes into the short screw over here. On the right hand side, you can screw that down. Then there are two longer screws that go up at the top here. Always go opposite sided to make sure you hold it down as well as possible. Screw that into place, so that should be nice and solid, no wiggle. Down here at the bottom, tucking the home button back in, once again, pins to line up with holes. One pin here, one pin up here, line those all up with this potato quality. Incredibly zoomed in 1080p. Fold the connector over, should snap together nicely. Yep, definitely connected, lifting up a little bit, but that's kind of to be a little bit expected with repairs. Empty out the screws. Okay, yeah, sorry. One of the screws decided to land on here. Get that all lined up. Longer screw to the left of you. Shorter to the right. There it is, home button in the middle. Horribly butchering, I know. But what can you do when you're forced to sit and listen to me? Alright, that's the entire device reassembled. Well, okay, not the entire device, the entire screen reassembled. Now, we're at the point where we are once again reconnecting it to the logic board. Three connectors to the screen, battery connector, powered on. Oh! Okay. So now that we've actually transferred over the screen, we need to test a few things. One, we need to test to make sure the home button works. That'll be pretty self-evident, as it should give us a warning as soon as we plug it in that Touch ID cannot be activated on this device, so that's nice and straightforward. We need to test the speakers, or rather the upper speaker, the proximity sensor, ambient light sensor, and the front-facing camera. So, turning on the camera, if I tap here, should display, yep, camera up above, nope. That was not meant to be done. Voice memos is here, thankfully, which is awesome. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. 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 Cool. Okay, so what doing this test does by moving my finger over here triggers the proximity sensor. If I stop recording, I go to this one, I should be able to hear. Yep, just barely audible because there's still plastic covering on it. However, I can hear the speaker working, which is a very, very, very good sign. Has everything tested, device is ready for reassembly. Should be totally good to go. Uh, 40 minutes stream, or probably 45 minutes is closer to what it'll be by the end of this, for a 20-minute problem. Gotta love phone repair. I already explained what screws go where. Worst case scenario, look them up yourself. Always, always, always reference a proper, higher visual quality video for if you're attempting to do your own repair. Follow guides online, because you do not want to damage something important. Like the camera cables. My god, like the camera cables. One of the very first phones I saw when I started working here was one where, yeah, it still powers on totally fine. Customer had tried doing the repair themselves, broke their battery they tried to install, and sliced their camera ribbon connector on an iPhone 7, so that was not cheap. Screw in the pentalobes at the bottom, and just like that, you made yourself a nice pipe and hot repaired iPhone. Okay, bundle up the old screen. And that is all for this repair. Hopefully, as soon as I'm finishing this one up, another one will come in right on through the door and be like, oh hey, I totally want to get this repaired. Please, good sir, repair this device for me. And I'll be like, cool, I don't have to end a stream early then. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be early. I suppose I'm just rambling to myself right now. Put away all your tools, keep everything nice and organized, so that your coworkers don't want to kill you in their sleep. Because that is how you make enemies. By leaving messy, 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 messy workplaces so that somebody else has to use. It also doesn't do you any favors if you need to come in and work on something. And a stream.